Our winner, David Krikorian, the Cincinnati novelty playing cards entrepreneur who is seeking the Democratic nomination to face the reprehensible Gene Schmidt for the House seat in the Ohio 2nd. This floor is being challenged by an Indian-American, Surya Yalamanchili, from Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, and before that from The Apprentice. If he were nominated to face Schmidt, I just don't know where Mr. Krikorian thinks he would be finding votes. He tried to beat her as an independent 2 years ago and called himself a Reagan conservative. Now he's allegedly told the VFW at Claremont County, Ohio, quote, "Now, do you really think a guy with a name like that has a chance of ever being elected?" Krikorian denies he said that about his opponent at the VFW, but an Ohio Democratic County chairman says Krikorian said the same thing, almost word for word, to him earlier. Yalamanchili. You know, you can't trust them foreigners. I mean, this Surya guy, who was born in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Would-be Democratic congressional nominee David Krikorian, today's worst person in the world.
How does it feel to have been named Keith Olbermann's worst person in the world?
Well, I think, you know, I used to have some respect for Keith Olbermann, but when you get my wife mad at you, you've crossed the line. Keith Olbermann is a buffoon for not checking his sources, for not even bothering to check. But here's one thing I will state. For the record, last night's program was sponsored by Procter & Gamble's Oil of Olay brand, which is the exact brand that Surya Yalamanchili worked for. So how did they cover that story last night? Because I'm sure Keith Olbermann is not reading the Cincinnati Press. So our folks think that the Oil of Olay brand people, and Procter & Gamble in particular, were advancing their former employee, and that's how it got in there. I mean, I can't see how, you know, if you watch that program, and frankly, I don't watch that program anymore because the guy's way too over the top to be taken seriously by the vast majority of Americans, I believe. You know, I mean, you got to look at it. I mean, somebody makes an allegation about somebody else that's unsubstantiated and has been debunked, yet Olbermann chooses to use that, and I don't think that he knew anything about it. I think he was reading from his script. So somehow that got put in there, and how did it get put in there? Well, if you look at the relationship between the story and the show's sponsor, I think it's pretty clear how it got in there. Well, I mean, I think some of these quote-unquote progressive blogs are full of themselves. I mean, you know, some of these blogs are run by, you know, kids who still live in their mom's basements. I mean, I'm not really too worried about what some of these goofballs have to say. I don't think any of them live in the district, and I could really care less. Every two-bit hack has their say on the internet. I don't believe that they would ever be allowed on the Huffington Post, for example, because these guys are pretty much clowns. Of the candidates in the race, she clearly does not want to face me, and that's why 6 days before a primary, her letter charging me with some kind of racial charge is so absurd, because she knows if she can get me defeated in the primary, she's home free. It's actually a smart political move on her part. She's a calculating politician. It's just a shame that the Democratic Party has been duped by the Republican sitting congresswoman. How could they be so stupid? How could Tim Burke and Dave Lane be so utterly stupid and so incredibly careless and reckless in what they've done? They took her charges, never bothered to talk with me or address them with me, went to the press with them. And that's just bad. And I believe, as I've believed for a long while, that there's a lot of things going on in the background here. And why would the chairman of the Claremont County Democrats, if he had an issue with anything that he thinks I may have said, why wouldn't he come and talk with me about that first? Why would he run off to the press? Why would he side with Gene Schmidt, of all people? So that's what I would say. Like, if you want to smell a rat, the rat is Dave Lane, the current chairman of the Claremont County Democratic Party.
Are you corrupt?
No.
No, I'm not corrupt.
No, I'm not corrupt. I guess the accusations that I've seen, on the blogs and the emails that I have received, suggesting that I'm somehow in the pocket of Gene Schmidt, I would suggest that you call Gene Schmidt and ask Gene how cooperative I've been with her over the years, and ask her how much influence she has over me. I think if she's honest, she'll laugh.
It's the first time I've ever agreed with Gene Schmidt on anything publicly. But I think she was right in that letter. I was surprised to see her project herself into the Democratic primary when she didn't have to. But on the point she was making, she was right.
Here you've got the chairman of the Democratic Party working with Gene Schmidt. If that doesn't smack of corruption and dirty politics, I don't know what else it could be. He completely lied, and the veterans have come to my defense. And I'll take the veterans over some corrupt party official any day of the week.
I can tell you honestly, I was not at that veterans event, but I was standing leaning on my car last fall outside Democratic headquarters in Batavia when David Krikorian made that statement to me, and he can deny it. And there are only two of us there, so only two of us know that he said it. And he can deny it if he wants to, but I know what I heard.
For the record, did you ever ask anyone or suggest to anyone that Surya Yalamanchili couldn't be elected because of his name?
Again, it's not my position to talk with people about my opponents. I've never made a comment that he couldn't get elected because of his name. That's kind of that, because then by that rationale, I couldn't get elected because of my name. There aren't too many Krikorians or people of Armenian American descent in the 2nd Congressional District. So it's sort of silly. It'd be like the pot calling the kettle black. And no, I haven't.
I heard it with my own ears. I know he said it, and he knows he said it. But once you deny something, it's hard to admit after you've denied it as strongly as David had.
Well, the name game controversy in the 2nd District grows more contentious tonight. Democrat David Krikorian says the accusation that he disparagingly made fun of the name of a fellow Democrat is reckless and patently false. Held a news conference to categorically deny it.
I try and pronounce everyone's name with the respect that it deserves. And I can't think of a single instance where that happened. I think it's entirely false.
But if he would have just said, if I said that, or if it was construed that way, then Surya, I'm sorry. But instead, we see these crazy, insane blogs, suggesting that there's some conspiracy by the Republicans and Procter & Gamble and Keith Olbermann and myself and Tim Burke. It's crazy. It's insane.
Whether he said precisely what Schmidt claims that he said at that VFW hall, I don't know. I wasn't there. But I've heard from enough other people that he had made similar comments to that it was totally believable that he did. I couldn't sit back, and neither could Dave Lane nor the chair of the State Democratic Party, and allow that kind of conduct to go on. I frankly hope that bringing this conduct and his positions to light will defeat him, will defeat Krikorian. It may not. He may end up being our candidate in the fall anyway.
There have been deals that have been cut in the past, let's put it that way, where deals are cut between Republican Party leaders and Democratic Party leaders to basically carve the spoils. And that's you know, what's the difference between the Democratic and Republican Party? You know, a lot of folks, most of the people in the country will say that they're just two sides of the same coin. And that's clearly what's going on here. You have Democrats cutting deals with Republicans.
You know, I think that gives a little bit too much credit to Democrats and Republicans. If that's going on, nobody told me. And I think that I would be somewhat aware, you know, if there was something going on like that. But I think that's ridiculous.
We look forward to closing out strong. I mean, we think no matter what they throw at us, and they've thrown everything, including the kitchen sink at us, we're still going to win this race. And then it'll be interesting to see how things change.
I've been the county chair here in Hamilton County now for 17 years and been involved in politics for, it's about 40 years now. I can't think of a comparable situation.